Hello there. It's been a while since I've done any videos. Right, today I will be colouring this outcome for one of my university projects. It's a character design brief for a RPG fantasy game. And I've got all the colours that I need written down here. I'll be using Ahoo markers and we'll see how this goes. I think next I will colour in all the leather. So I'm going to need potato brown. There we go. So you're going to get to see my colouring process while we're doing this. These are the Ahoo brush markers, not the bullet nib ones. I don't like to leave an area untouched for too long if you stop brushing the marker somewhere, because then you'll notice a streak when you come back to it. And when I'm done with this bit of leather, it should come out much darker than how you see it right now. You'll notice that I've got a sketchbook propped under this piece. Alarms. Yes, you'll see that I've got a sketchbook placed under here. That's because its cover is going to be thick enough to stop any bleeding onto the table. Some of you who've probably watched my videos before, you'll realise this is the first time that you're watching me actually create anything real time, rather than through a time lapse. And that would be because I didn't actually have the means to film real time beforehand. I was using an iPad, which was set up not with a tripod, but with all sorts of odds and ends in order to keep it at the right angle. I mean, you can probably notice in some videos where the camera actually started to move because of how unstable all of that was. And because it was just such a time-consuming process, it just got to the point where I didn't enjoy making the videos, so I just stopped that, and then all the copper happened as well. So even though I meant to start making more videos in 2020, that didn't happen. But now I've got some better equipment, and I've got a new desk. I can safely say that I should be making more videos if this one goes well. See, I used to upload videos monthly before my hiatus, and that was about the most active that I was on social media, aside from the blog that I used to run. I've since then stopped doing the blog. It's easier to just use my Instagram account that I set up about a year ago now. I still have a blog on my website. I'll pop a link in the description for that. But it's not going to be regularly updated like the previous blog was. Like, if you want frequent content from myself, Instagram is the best place to go at the moment. So this video recording is basically just a bit of an experiment, me getting used to my new camera, seeing what's going to work and what isn't, and what I'm faced up with. Let's make sure that the artwork is still in the shot, and it is. Right, so that's the potato brown. So I'm using the brush tips. I prefer brush and bullet nibs over the chisel tip. I find that the chisel tip is always a lot more streaky. And I don't really want that. So what I'm doing with this one is I'm going to mark where I want the shadows to be going. Make a mark there, have some shade on this side. Have it be a bit lighter over there, kind of like a reflective light. Start there. Be careful not to let anything bleed. Got some very fine sections. Done. Yeah, I've got the hands to go. This is where it's going to start getting tricky. I've been taking some time to learn the shape of these hands, but I haven't done any tonal studies. So while I'm doing this, I'll tell you a bit about the character that you see me colouring in today. As I said at the beginning, this is part of a character design project that we've been set by our tutor. The general idea is that we've been commissioned to create a single creature design for, I can't remember what the game is called now, but it's not real, it's a fictional RPG fantasy game, and there were not so much restrictions, just some rules to keep in mind, which included that the creature had to be humanoid. So if you think about it being a playable character, it has the same bone structure. The animation would be less costly that way. It wasn't allowed to be rounded, it had to have angular shapes and fit in with the style of the Team Fortress 2 games. which I'm hoping this one has done. It feels Team Fortress 2, but I never really played the games, so I've had to do a bit of research into their character designs, how Team Fortress 2 stuff looks, what colours they use. Because again, the colour palette had to fit in with that style. That looks alright. I'm going to get another marker in. Just in case that one's going to go here. Okay. Again, being careful not to let anything bleed through the lines. So this character I've based off a clay golem. And I've given him the name Lord Golfolomew. I imagine he's a very classy golem. And I suppose if you trespass on his territory, he's gonna try and kill you. There is potential there for him to be an enemy character, which is something we had to consider when we designed these characters. So yeah, as the name suggests, he's a lord. Pretty high ranking. Perhaps he is a noble guard of some kind. He's going to be wearing rich colours, so I'm going to have most of his jacket in a red. Almost like vermilion red. And I reckon that's ready to be blended. So I'm going to start that by getting the first pen I used, and I'm going to start going over areas where the markers transition from one colour to the next. And this is going to encourage them to blend. You'll have that extra layer of the base colour going into the base. Whenever you're doing this, you've got to colour the entirety of whatever darker area you have. Otherwise the blend doesn't work effectively. It ends up getting lighter where the dark area wasn't coloured in a second time. At least that's just the method that I have. Might work differently for some people. I'm not using actual marker paper. So when you're doing this bit over your markers, you want to go kind of like when you're cross-hatching, you want to go in the different direction to what direction your lines were going. So if you're drawing, if your marker cell shading sort of breaks that way, you want to go that way to blend them. Alright, now that's done, we give it one last wash of colour. I'm going to use Y12 for that. So that was the mid-tone, and this is just going to help to make the blend look a lot smoother. While it's drying, it will look a lot darker. And for the most part it is that way. which is why you want to make sure your first layer is a colour that's a lot lighter than what you intend the colour to actually be. Because early on when I was trying this technique out, I did make that mistake a few times. Doesn't look bad as such, but it was like annoying. For larger areas, I'll just gently caress the brush, kind of like this. Sometimes I think if you want the colour to be a bit lighter, I think it works better to start by washing over the light one and then going into the darker colour. So there you can see it's a much darker brown than what the glove is right now. But this is the shade of brown that I intended his leather to be. So that works out fine. It does weaken the highlights. And that's one of those disadvantages to this technique, really. I like doing this bit. I suppose when you do this, you don't have to use one of the colours you shaded with. You can use a different colour entirely if you want. If you want this wash to have a slightly different hue, like with the head here, I used a cooler grey to shade with, then brought in a warm grey to wash over the whole piece with. So it made these shadows look warmer. That's the cold grey. That's another warm grey. Right, and that is the leather. So I'm realising now I have left part of the clay skin, so I'm going to have to go back and do that bit. The toesies, they should be visible. So I'm going to start with my lightest warm grey. And then I think it's Cool Grey 2 I used. I've got all the markers written down on my phone that I've been using, since this is a pretty serious project. Cool Grey 2 is over here. Am I right? I think I just heard some markers fall over. That's going to be fun to pick up. So there you can see it's a lot cooler than what the rest of the clay shading looks like. After that is a warm grey again. Number 3. So I'm gonna like that. I'm not gonna do that bit. I'm gonna go underneath this bit of clothing there on both of them. Bring warm grey 3 back. This top bit, I'm going to do that. Do the same here. Okay. Just show that that's where no light is going to reach. And then I come back to this one. The one with. And I want warm grey 1. Is that the one? There it is. And that's his toes done. Much better. So it's just the black and red sections to go now. That's the right one. So, the buttons. Get this treatment. I accidentally went over the line. No. Oh, man. It is impossible to get through an artwork without making a mistake. Don't know if that applies to digital artwork. Here's where it goes next. So yeah, now that I do have the means to make more YouTube videos, I should be pumping out some new content every now and then. I can't promise a schedule. Not at this point, it's too early. But we'll see how it goes. If you have any ideas for what I can do, or what you want to see, then feel free to let me know in the comments. I'd be glad to hear what you want. This arm here was one of the trickiest bits, because it meant having to draw this section of clothing which matches with that side of his wrist but goes under the arm, and I had to actually look up how that would work. I think I've got it right. And if I haven't, then I'll just have to get it right next time. Just the shoes, isn't it? So there we go, I have just finished Lord Golfolomew. He's got his nice vermilion red coat on now. I will zoom in for you. There we go. Looking very dapper now. So yep, that's going to be where I wrap things up for today. Daylight's starting to fade away as well. So thank you very much for watching and have yourself a pleasant day. I will see you next time.